Mr Deputy President. And I too rise to take note of answers on education given by the government today. And all we've heard from government senators is a ridicule of Labor's very solid, fully costed plan on education. And there's a reason for that, because those opposite have nothing to say when it comes to education. They have absolutely nothing to say. And why is that? Because they have ripped out of every single Australian school $3.2 million. That will happen over the next 10 years. That's their school plan, to reduce the funding available to schools. $3.2 million out of every single school across this country. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. Imagine what impact the loss of that money has on the quality of resource, the quality of teaching, the exciting learning experiences that children simply will not experience, because those opposite, the Turnbull government, will have ripped the heart out of every single school in Australia. And unfortunately, I come from a state where their Liberal counterpart, Colin Barnett, has also ripped the heart out of school funding. So not only will every school in Western Australia suffer this $3.2 million cut imposed by the Turnbull government, they've got cuts of their own imposed by the Colin Barnett Liberal government. And let me tell you, schools in Western Australia are in a shocking state. But of course, it's not just Labor saying this. I've recently chaired the inquiry into children with special needs in our education system. And again, we saw another mistruth, where again we saw Christopher Pyne, when he was the opposition shadow, make promises that he would commit the sort of Gonski funding that kids with special needs need in our school. And yet what we've seen is that government has introduced this indexation to CPI, which is failing children with special needs. And again, the very conservative Catholic Education, what did they tell the inquiry? They told the inquiry exactly the same thing, that they can't manage on this funding, that it is not enough for the Catholic Education to provide the quality and the specialist services that children with special needs need in their school. And they went further. They said schools will close. Schools for special needs children that they manage will close if this drop in funding, the failure to commit to their promises, continues by the Turnbull government. And we heard Catholic Education in their mainstream schools yesterday say exactly the same thing. Well, we can't all have a comprehension problem. You don't sit there as a Catholic Education office and attack your funder unless things are dire, and they are dire. We heard shocking experiences of children with disability in our education system. And if they had the Gonski funding, things would change. And we heard from schools in New South Wales who'd picked up the special funding that Labor put into schools that have children with special needs. And they told us of the great innovations that they were able to bring to bear, all of which is now gone. And this is what we see again from those opposite. The Gonski review was revolutionary, and obviously those opposite have never bothered to read it. It established very clearly the growing inequity in our schools between those students who come from wealthier areas to those students who don't. There's a growing disparity. But of course that is what the Turnbull government is all about. Unless you can help yourself, they've got no interest in helping you. And the Gonski panel set out very clearly what was needed. Yes, of course funding is at the core of reform, but we also need good quality teachers, something Labor will invest in our policy. We want to see innovative schools. We want to see all children having the best opportunity, not being defined by postcode. And I had 2 grandchildren start high school and continue on this year. And unfortunately, they don't live in the green leafy suburbs, and their schooling is difficult. Their schools need more funding, and yet I know that those opposite have taken $3.2 million away from their schools, denying them the opportunities of other children.
Order, Senator.